We do have Dr. Jerome Corsi joining us. They are going ahead with the North American Union NAFTA Superhighway program, despite telling the public that first it didn't exist, and then the legislature shot it down twice. It affects the entire nation, but begins down in Mexico through Texas up into Canada. They even have the whole highway planned out with the highway markers for all the way into Canada. But then when you talk about it, they say it doesn't exist. They've been building the NAFTA Superhighway from Mexico into Texas and up into Oklahoma. It's all over the news here, and they go on CNN over the years. I've played the clips and go, Ron Paul isn't saying there is no Trans-Texas Corridor, NAFTA Superhighway, when it's all Department of Transportation and publicly admitted and billboards up everywhere. Then they go, it doesn't exist. And then they say, oh, we're not going to build it now, and then they sign an order and bring it back in, even though the legislature said no, because they're having the states go and pay for it with taxpayer money. And then the globalists get the tax money off the toll roads. Dr. Jerome Corsi is going to join us for the balance of the hour, and I appreciate him coming on. We're going to get into this. We're going to get into his article where Perry is still doing public-private partnerships, Trans-Texas, NAFTA Superhighway in pieces. And people say, I was on Mancal yesterday, and he said, well, why is it important if it's in Texas? He was asking a rhetorical question. He knew why. He's a really smart guy, Eric Muller. And I said, Eric, there's 40-plus major interstate highways, another 40 other corollary roads that they, in the official Department of Transportation documents, say they want to take over, put taxes on, and fund the North American Union with. And it's an artery right down to the Pacific side of Mexico with the biggest port now in the hemisphere to bring in Chinese goods. And it's an international corridor, like the Romans used roads to control things. And I made the film Endgame, Blueprint for Global Enslavement, almost 3 hours long. About 30 minutes of it is on this subject. And it shows Bush giving speeches saying we've merged the North American Union with the EU, all the agreements. I mean, we're already way down the hole here. So all of that's going on. And that's what this is about. We're already under a North American Union. But the states twice voted it down. Texas is the main funding artery to fund it all the way up into Canada. They've got mile markers all the way to Canada. It's marked for mile markers all the way for something like 2,000 miles. But they just call it the I-35 shoot-around outside Austin. But it goes all the way to San Antonio. It's there. And CNN, I've played the clips, you've seen it, would say Ron Paul 4 years ago is insane. There is no Texas Superhighway. There is no Trans-Texas Corridor. We had billboards all over the state with a cowboy going, I like the Trans-Texas Corridor and paying tolls. And they had ads going, yeah, it's Trans-Texas Corridor. Texas is proud to be part of the NAFTA Superhighway system. I'd go to movies and see ads before the movies going, Texas is a proud part of the North American Union. I appreciate all you're doing. Meanwhile, we go, hey, we don't want this. It doesn't exist. And that's a psychological warfare term called gaslighting. And Dr. Corsi can break this down. He, of course, has worked for the State Department and national security in classified areas. He has a Harvard Ph.D. in political science. He's worked for, Fortune, top mega banks, you name it. I'm not going to go over his whole bio. He's got, I don't know, 3 or 4 #1 New York Times bestsellers. Dr. Corsi, how bad is it? It's even worse than I thought it would be. What is your take? Why is it moving so quickly? I mean, it is like the dam has broken.
Well, I think it's a rush to the finish line. I think the New World Order sees an opportunity. With the article I wrote in the WorldNet Daily, WND, just over the holidays, it's clear that Governor Perry, with the Trans-Texas Corridor, that it's back. I mean, I researched it and found that now there's something like $20 billion in road work underway throughout Texas on these public-private partnerships. That's the key idea, the public-private partnership. In other words, and typically three of these deals I looked at in particular, this State Highway 130 near San Antonio, extensions of I-35 around Dallas-Fort Worth, Cintra, C-I-N-T-R-A in Spain, which was the company that was going to do the full development of the Trans-Texas Corridor, the 4,000 miles that Governor Perry proposed before we exposed it, and they had to withdraw the plan in disgrace. But the Cintra is going to build these highways on 50-year leases, where, for instance, let's say Cintra puts up $5 billion. The state of Texas subsidizes with $1 billion. Centra builds the extension to the road. Now they're doing it piece by piece. And Centra gets to run the toll road for 50 years on a 50-year lease, and Centra in Spain collects the tolls from the motorists driving in Texas. And again, this was something that Governor Perry said he'd put an end to. 2009, there was a pledge to end the Trans-Texas corridor with Centra.
Well, don't forget, you've seen the clips where the CNN just said it didn't even exist.
Right, exactly. I mean, they're still denying that any of this planning exists, or that, you know, Winnipeg up in Canada has been declared by Prime Minister Harper to be an inland port, and they're building the same infrastructure.
What's incredible is the meetings, the maps, all of it's 100% public, and then they first announced it even in, you know, Time Magazine, and then when we don't like it, they go, you're crazy, that doesn't exist.
Well, they deny it. They laugh about it. They, you know, if you remember up in Montebello in Canada, when, you know, they were asked, Harper and Bush, and at that time, the president of Mexico, three of them meeting in the Security and Prosperity Partnership, if there was going to be a NAFTA Superhighway that was going to combine three nations in this continent, North America, into an international transportation system. And Harper laughed at it, and he said, oh, yes, it may be intraplanetary. And then, of course, he comes out and announces that Winnipeg is going to be an inland port, and that the government of Canada is committed to building an international transportation structure that ties into trade in China.
And I know Dr. Corsi's been on this even more than I have, but watching in Texas, they don't even follow their agreements. In fact, most of the new toll road stuff is built off existing toll roads on roads they're not even supposed to put them on. They break the law and do that. Bush signed an executive order. I guess they say that makes it all right. I guess they could sign an executive order saying the moon was made of cheese. And then most of these new roads get paid for with taxpayer money, and then Centra just gets the money. But I want to get into that, and that's why I originally asked the guys to get you on, Dr. Corsi, and I appreciate you coming on. But what about the overall? I'm going to go back into it. I know you're focused on this now, but take on that. I want to go back into the NAFTA Superhighway because it ties in to this tactic now that those of us that are awake go, this is ridiculous and discrediting that they announced there's no global government being formed. But in hundreds of financial papers, they brag how they're forming a world government run by private banks. So why are they doing that? Well, because we're informed. The general public, folks, doesn't know where their state capital is.
Hypocrisy and the lying of the New World Order and this Bill Ayers left, that this Obama left, has never been greater. They're lying about everything, saying, oh, no, we don't have a NAFTA Superhighway. There's no public-private partnerships here. Then you look and you find there's $20 billion of deals that Governor Perry has signed with with Centra in Spain.
No, they bragged in the AP years ago. They said Perry's just going ahead in chunks. I mean, it's not a secret. They just laugh at us. Incredible. Just stay there, Doc. We got to go to break. I want to come back and get...
But the advantage we've got is the truth. And I think if we keep going back to it, I mean, every one of the articles I write, Alex, I footnote. I've got all kinds. You can go look at the original sources. That's what, made the articles of the North American Union, going back to when I was writing the late great USA in 2005, 2006, so powerful, was I linked to their own documents, the government's own documents.